All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Another Friday. Happy Friday. And me and Greg back for another episode here. Greg, how you doing?
Good, man. I've already had one too many coffees today, so we'll see how this goes.
Nice, nice. What's your like caffeine sort of play? What is your thing?
Uh, I feel like I'm healthy and functional at one coffee per day, and then on Fridays I meet my dad for coffee. But
Mhm.
after I have my regular morning coffee, so I and then what I do is I get these like amped up cold brews with some sort of flavor syrup in there, and I also usually am not a flavor syrup guy, so I have like 2.5 times the caffeine in my blood right now, plus sugar. And I also eat differently on Friday. Usually I'm trying to like hit red meat twice a day, and then on Friday, nothing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Friday mornings, my metabolism is totally jacked, and I just feel absolutely wired. And then I have like a nasty crash in the afternoon. But you get the best of me for these sessions in the morning.
I was gonna say, so we basically get like a different version of you than most of the time. Uh
Yeah, yeah. I think people know that too. If anybody's ever had like been on a group call with me or a one-on-one or something, they probably there's like a different energy on these than there is in those. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's probably real.
that's funny, man. I can relate, except it's been a lot of days recently, but I kind of have it dialed, but then I always just push it a little too far, a little too much. Like
Yeah,
sucker for these Celsius energy drinks, which probably aren't the best for you, but uh and then the cold brew, dude. The cold brew is good. Uh
yeah,
I haven't really drank much hot coffee in like a while. I don't know. I'm just part of it's the weather change, but part of it's like I've been liking, I feel like a cold coffee just like sits better. So
yeah.
uh it's funny, dude, because this YouTube channel way back is like was all about like the like health and the carnivore diet and talking about that stuff. And
Mhm.
I think the subscribers have slowly like morphed over as the content has changed. But
Yeah,
someone shared a video that I still left up there of when I really did the intense carnivore diet as like an experiment. And it was a great, like it was the only video that really actually like hit. But someone reshared it, and then I was getting subscribers and comments like about that. And
Mhm.
then I was like, oh, like, so if anyone's watching this, because I was like, do I do a video? Anyways, basically, I uh I don't do a strict carnivore diet anymore, but I use it as a tool uh of feeling good and getting back to like a baseline. So that's
yeah.
kind of on the caffeine note, because anyways.
100%. I'd say I'm like
Um
80 or 90% carnivore. If anybody's here looking for carnivore content, like Ben and I are both big fans of red meat, but we're
yeah.
also going to show you how to use that as a tool to make even more money. Let's go there.
That's right. That's right. And without kind of derailing this whole episode, the evolution of some of that like is connected. Feeling good like does help you be more confident in your ideas and your creativity and stuff like that. And so I also think that uh so getting healthy is important, but then part of being healthy is like having these ideas and these projects and these businesses to work on, because like so much of the time uh you can optimize, you can do all like the optimization and the diet stuff, but if you don't have a project or a passion, or like your actual life isn't like working on things that matter, like you'll still have like you might still have some of the issues you were trying to solve with diet. So it's like been this evolution for me where I'm like, oh yeah, like you have to be excited about what you're doing at some level, and that is 100% a piece of like of not only not being depressed but like being excited about your life. So there's the little life coaching carnivore session. But yeah, you threw it in a topic there, which is a good one. So let's dive into that.
Yeah. So my idea, it's this contrast that we see a lot. People just kind of giving us different messages about this topic, and I want to explore this and see like what's the right answer, where should we sit. And so you and I both come into e-commerce kind of from this world where we want to not just like throw crap into the market because like the number, some software tool said it was a good idea. Like we
Hmm.
want to understand that there's a particular ideal customer that we want to serve, and we want to create things around that person. With the idea being that if you create a suite of products where a single customer would be willing to buy all of them, then it makes a lot more sense business wise in terms of how you do marketing and operations, right? You acquire one customer and sell them 5 SKUs instead of having 5 unrelated SKUs and having to acquire 5 different customers to come in and buy them all, right? It's just better business to sell more stuff to the same people, right? It makes sense. So, but when people are exploring ideas about how to do that, because it's different kinds of research, right? It's a different type of questions that you have to ask at the beginning rather than what the software says is a good product. You have to understand, why would somebody actually want that product, and what else would they want in the context of like related problems, right? And so I don't want to get like too esoteric with this, but a lot of people, when they're coming at it from this angle, it's like, okay, well, um, the type of customer I understand is myself,
Hmm.
right? In the context of me, eating a certain way, I know why I make the choices that I make. Therefore, I could articulate those things to other people. So, for example, if I wanted to start a brand that catered to meat preferers, is that a word? I don't know. Like the people who are on board with carnivore but are maybe not like strict about it, right?
Hmm.
So I know how to speak to that person because those conversations happen in my own head. So it makes the marketing a lot easier. I understand the angles,
Hmm.
right? And so I know with what you're doing with your brand, that's very much the case. Like you are speaking to people who think like you, and that's one of the tricks that I think got you very fast momentum, is that you didn't have to figure this out and do all this like test angles and stuff. It's like you knew what the narrative was in your head, and you simply spoke to them what you knew resonated,
Hmm.
and then boom, right?
Hmm.
So there's value in that. At the same time, I run into this all the time where people are like, and it seems to happen around pricing, right? People are like, they're selling this thing for 29.99 and the margins aren't great. And I look at that and I'm like, and they're telling me maybe I'll raise the price to 32. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, why not 49? And they're just, whoa, that's so exp I'd never pay that. Yes, you would never pay that. However, there are people in your market who would pay that. You just have to give them a reason and a justification to pay 49 instead of 32. And honestly, if you're going to do 32, just do 34.99. It's the same number psychologically, right? So I mentioned I had coffee with my dad. We had this conversation. So he runs a salsa business, and he was talking about his needing to like raise his case price to the retailers because his ingredient cost has gone up. And it was one of these deals where it's like, I forget what the numbers were, but it's like, I'm gonna have to go from 75 to 78. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like a store owner who's already selling through your product, making money on it. I'm like, if you raise the price $4 a case, they're not gonna say, oh, never mind. They're just gonna tack 50 cents a jar extra on. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're going to, now if you come in and double the case price, then yeah, maybe that's an issue. But going from like 75 to 78 is the same thing as going from 75 to 79. Psychologically, there's no difference.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you tell them it's 89? And then if they give you pushback, make some accommodation and say, well, I'll give you 79 for the next 6 months, something like that. But I'm like, and he's in his head, he's thinking, well, I would never pay X amount retail for a jar of salsa, right? You wouldn't, but there's millions of people who pay 14.99 for a premium jar of salsa. It's no big deal. Like it's no
Yeah.
big deal. So you know what I mean? So on one level, we need to be in the head of our customer to speak to them, but on the other level, um, we can get in our own way. and I see this most around pricing. Well, I would never pay that. Well, you're not buying it, you're selling it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it is fascinating because I I yeah, on a few different levels. The one that's been interesting actually has been so about a year and a half ago, I really started to try to challenge my own beliefs around money and around pricing and around not being a budgeter and around inviting inviting higher costs but also higher paychecks. And what that has done for me is actually uh, it's been awesome overall, but it has put me out of touch um, with some like pricing ideas because I just decided that uh, if I liked something, I would get it. So, and I buy from a lot of brands. I love buying stuff from brands. I love, knowing the brand. I love seeing the business side, and then I love supporting them. And so, what was interesting about that, there are two things. One, it moved me away from being price sensitive, which could be argued to be a good thing or a bad thing as a business owner. Uh, but what it did was it showed me that, oh my gosh, there's people, and I'm not wealthy, but there's people like me who buy and they're not, is it 34.99 or 36.99? There's a large group of people that uh, they're just buying the damn thing. And so to focus on that like pricing thing as a driver of what you're doing,
Mhm.
like that's literally just choosing to focus on the people who think that way when
Yes.
there may be just as many people who do not think that way.
Yes.
But I think starting out, we weigh that so heavily. What will what seems expensive? Like you might even put some feelers out there. Like like would you pay 39.99 for this? Oh, that seems expensive. Oh shoot, like okay, let me dial it back. It's like, well, why are you asking like you're getting feedback from the people who nickel and dime. And
Yeah.
so you can lose track. With that being said, there are also some unwritten rules around certain types of products and price points that kind of can work. So this goes back to, I think some feedback from the market and kind of seeing what does work. Um, but that comes almost after the fact. Like, I was just talking to a dude the other day who has a cool brand and he said, "Oh, I'm getting some pushback on the pricing." And it's like, okay, if you're trying to get going and get your first your sales and your momentum and your Facebook ads going and maybe your conversion rate's down or all the comments or the price is too high, it's like, okay, you can think about that for sure. Um, but yeah, it can be a
That's
mental
it.
block.
I would, yeah, mental block, 100%. And if you have a bunch of customers coming to you saying this is too expensive, you have two options really as a business owner. What that means is there's a gap in price and perceived value.
Mm,
You can either, and you can close the gap one of two ways. You can either lower the price or you can increase the perceived value. Most people will lower the price.
yep.
But why do some people religiously spend twice as much on a computer with a, the logo of a piece of fruit on it versus, getting something that's arguably technologically superior at half the price, right? Apple versus everything else. And it's because of the boxes. I
Yep.
say that half jokingly, but uh, you know, Apple boxes for their products increase the perceived value of the product. I have a drawer full of Apple boxes that I'm reluctant to throw away because they're so nice.
Hmm.
What am I going to do with these things? Eventually, I'm going to throw them. But that's what I mean. Most people will decrease the price, but some brands figure out how to increase the perceived value so that people no longer feel like it's expensive.
Hmm.
Now,
Yep.
it's interesting you mentioned some people have that really, really strict price sensitivity and others don't. I want to point out that that loosely correlates with income, but not entirely.
Mm.
My wife and I have access to the same checking account. My wife, when she buys shampoo, she looks at, I don't know if she does this anymore, and maybe I shouldn't say this because we joke about it, but I have seen her in the past line up bottles of shampoo across the shelf to pick the one with slightly more shampoo in it. Okay. Like looking at which one has slightly more, you know what I mean? She's a very diligent shopper. She wants to get good deals. She hates it when I go grocery shopping by myself because I literally have no idea how much anything costs. I honestly do not look at prices of anything. I just put what I want in the cart and then check out. Like that's how I shop. I just put like you said, I put what I want in the cart. And I have like a rough idea. I know what I want, but I don't know how much each individual item costs. It's not part of the calculus for me.
Yep.
But for her, that's like it's very different. We're just kind of tuned differently, have very, very different shopping habits. We have access to the same checking account.
Yep.
I joke with her all the time, when we talk about business stuff and um, she's a great really like she's a great counter perspective for me. Like we work actually very well together because of the differences in perspective. But we joke all the time that she is not our ideal customer because of the price sensitivity. I
Hmm.
would prefer to sell to people who don't care how much things cost,
Hmm.
and they exist. So
Yep.
just throwing that out there. If you are hung up on whether your thing should be 31.99 or 33.99, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one because you can kind of decide what you build as well. And why would you not build the one that's more premiumly positioned is my sort of question. On the other hand, and I even have a bit of this with my brand and the audience I serve, um, I am trying to serve people. I am trying to uh the people a lot of people I love and want to be my customers, they may not think this way about pricing. They may have to budget. And so that's the only like pushback I would give there. Uh, but at the end of the day, like it's a business here. It's not a charity. Like, and I think you really can either go premium or go cheap. And
Mhm.
it's way better to go premium because even if you get the cheap thing working, a lot of the time I think you're going to be scaling a whole bunch of headaches.
It is. And you're not going to out cheap Walmart.
Exactly.
You're
It's
never going to
almost
win.
you almost can't win that game anyways. So in trying to be like the small boutique cool brand and be cheap, it's like you're just fucking yourself. Like
You are.
you really are.
Yeah. Playing
Because
on hard mode.
yeah, you're trying to compete with the people you can't compete with, and you've also basically taken away your only advantage. Like you're not leaning into your advantage, and it's almost like what you don't think it's worth. You're devaluing your own brand, uh, which then is passed on. So yeah, I guess I'm for the high pricing here.
Yeah.
Um, but I think going back to like the conversation in your head versus the customer's head is is an interesting one. And usually the reframe needs to be to the point to the conversation with your dad. Listen, uh, if you are a person who buys uh the cheaper one, uh, even even if you're that person, it's better to build your business for the people who don't behave that way. Um, and that's when you need to be challenged and maybe raise the pricing. Um, I don't think you see it the other way really, where someone's like totally out of touch and they're like, I'm going to charge this amount. And you're like, you can't really charge that. Like usually that's a simple just, oh, you're not thinking about this correctly. Like you can't charge $300. Maybe you can, but you know what I mean? It's like that's usually
Yep.
not a problem.
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean pricing's a fascinating thing, and it's a fascinating thing, especially with well, there's info and there's physical products because the the digital informational or coaching thing, that's wild, right? Because the pricing, it's literally
Hmm.
that perceived value.
Hmm.
But you can do those same things with the physical product. And I think a lot of like the unspoken thing here that we're talking about is like, is brand, why are they paying that? And your brand should start to become the thing that they're paying for.
Yeah. 100%. And I want to address one thing because I'll be unsettled if I don't. So if you're listening and you hear Ben and I talking about just charging this premium, we're running a business, not a charity, and you think, no, wait, I'm a business owner with a heart. I want to like serve my people by being really inexpensive and this and that. I want you to realize Ben and I are both business owners with a heart, legitimately. We care about our people. We care about things other than ourselves. And what the way that I think about this is the business exists literally to make money and to help people through the problems that we solve. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, with all that profit, we can do different things. We can make donations to charity. The more profitable the business, the more charitable donations that we can make. If you look at all the big philanthropists, like people who donate a ton of money, most of that money has been made through running a profitable business. Charities exist because other people made a lot of money. Okay. So if you want to be charitable, I would encourage you to make the money first and then, be generous while you're making the money, right? But the more money you make, the more generous you can be. Okay. Number two, if you feel bad that your people can't afford your thing, the other thing that you can do is just like you are doing for yourself, right? You are learning how to make yourself more valuable to the world. I think it's okay to talk about that kind of thing as a business to our customers in the right context. That's why I like to do the consulting and the coaching and this, that other stuff that I do. I want to help other people to become more valuable so that they can make more money
Hmm.
selfishly, so that they can pay me more money for the things that I sell them,
Hmm.
but also they'll be better off too. So you don't need to turn your front end business into a charity and constantly be operating on the edge of broke.
Hmm.
It's stressful, doesn't really serve anybody. You can do all that good stuff at the same time, but still make a whole bunch of money on your products. Did I adequately describe that well? I want to
Yep.
convey that you can be a business owner with a heart and still make a ton of money at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yep. And I mean, this doesn't negate the fact that, like, yeah, fair pricing is always a consideration, and trying to do things in a like, it doesn't automatically mean you're ripping people off. It doesn't mean that. It just means, like you said, that you're running a more successful business. And dude, struggling business owners, this might sound harsh, like it, it's one of the no, not one of the worst things, but like think about that. The struggling business owner typically doesn't have the resource to like serve their customers properly, to even innovate or make the product better, to hire good people to do good quality work, to get the better ingredients, to bringing it right back to even their own family and their own community. Like the stress and like, dude, I've had people who I have worked for struggling business owners. There's an energy, and there's always going to be struggles in business. But I mean, if you're not able to competently run a business because you cannot bring money in, um, typically employees are treated worse. there is a weight that hovers around the whole enterprise that that does not make the world necessarily a better place. There's
Yeah.
plenty of good that can still be done, and I'm not character shaming. Like I've struggled with lots of different businesses, but the whole point being that it's just it's just a better option to have the business that operates successfully, and pricing is a big part of that.
Yeah.
So,
Last thing that just popped into mind. 100 years ago, when the Ford Motor Company was starting to run out of steam in terms of like market penetration, they had this, big wave of sales, and then they just kind of ran up against a wall because all the people who could afford one of their cars had bought one, and they couldn't manufacture them any cheaper, really, to kind of hit like the next market segment down.
mm,
So do you know what he did? He gave all of his workers a gigantic raise, and they all bought cars for themselves. And it created this like next wave of sales, and then they were able to continue to operate and innovate. And then when they launched the Model T, that was like the most affordable car ever built at that time, that the regular guy, the regular middle class family could afford,
mhm,
right? And then of course from there they exploded. But that middle step was, they didn't cut their price and try to survive on a razor thin margin and have bad working conditions and all that. No, they gave all their workers a raise,
mhm.
which probably necessitated them raising their price a little bit for their high end customers.
Yeah, that's a great illustration there. Uh, I don't know if this is relevant or not. I heard this talk, and it was just a reframe. This guy was he was an optimist, but he was talking about the economy and how people at every time are always complaining about how bad things are and how expensive things are. But he made this comparison about, I think, the cost of a fridge or something, and comparing it like in the 60s, 70s, 80s or something to like now. And because everyone's like, oh, it's the most expensive it's ever been. And a lot of things are, like, I guess, housing and stuff. But like a fridge was like 10 times more expensive than it is now
Mhm.
for someone to buy. Like a lot of these appliances and things that that people kind of needed to get by, it would be significant larger proportion of their income. And
Yeah.
it's like now those costs have come down so far. Um
Dude,
and so I
flat
guess,
screen TVs
yeah, there's another one. Yeah.
in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like you can
Yeah.
walk into Costco and they have like these like 80-inch paper thin things that look amazing for maybe like 2 grand, right? And 10 years ago, that TV would have cost 20 grand.
Yeah.
So in that tiny little segment of the market, the innovation is happening faster. Like the innovation is happening so quickly that the product gets better and better and better, and you're getting more for or yeah, you're getting more for less every single year,
Yeah.
right? It's like counter to the macro inflationary trends that we see.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just different ways of framing it, kind of. Yeah, another thing is like, something I'll get is often, you could go make this for you could go get the ingredients for this for so cheap. Like, and there are people who think that way, and there are people who do that, and that is totally fine. Uh, but if that is another thing that is a block in your head where you're like, when I break it down, this isn't that expensive. It's like, no, 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 no. Then people can go do that, and they can go make it, and they can go find that version of it. Um, if you can put together a version of that and uh, create the value around it that people prefer to going and doing that for themselves, or going and finding the cheaper version, then you 100% should do that, and you 100% can do that. It's just
Yeah,
figuring out how to do that, position it that way.
right. And yeah, I think that circles right back to the very beginning. There are some people who are uber focused on what can I do? willing to spend 4 hours to save $20 versus spending the $20 and then using that 4 hours to create $10,000 in wealth by applying your brain to solve somebody else's problem that they're willing to pay for.
Yep. Yeah. Final kind of fun bonus, fun fact is this is sort of tied into how you run sales and discounts with your business in what terms of what people expect. And uh, people can feel like they need to have those, discounts to drive the sales in the same way that they have the low prices to drive the sales. And it's like it's just it doesn't end well in either situation if you're trying to uh, have price be the reason that someone's buying for you.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about the higher pricing, and if you are strict on when you have your sales, is that those sales really mean something. And on those few days of the year, you get all the people who who do think that other way still. You still get them, and you make an absolute killing. So we'll have to do an episode about that actually, dude, about the sales because yeah, I've got the two basically the Black Friday weekend and then the one other one that I do, and it's other than that, that's not a tool that I
Mm-hmm.
use to drive sales. But on those weekends, we make it rain. So
Nice, nice.
hopefully that helped someone out there. Yeah, charging the premiums and then also raising prices if you need to. That can be a scary thing. But there's that old, I forget who said it, where it's like if you doubled your prices and lost half your customers, you'd still be making the same, but you'd have way more time or
Yeah.
way more resources. So
Yep.
different ways to think about it. But awesome. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Drop a comment on, I don't know, how you think about pricing or something like that. And definitely subscribe if you like this stuff. And we'll see you next time. Peace.